Most people use plastic every day, but how much do we really know about it? Research suggests plastic pollution may impact biodiversity, ecosystem services, food security, and human health. In short, plastic pollution is a global threat. Plastic can affect organisms at every level of biological organization, altering gene expression, cells, and tissues, causing death and altering population size and community structure. Microplastics can impair reproduction and development and alter how species function, disperse, and assemble. Improper plastic disposal has become a leading problem in both developed and developing countries. As plastic is non biodegradable in nature, it remains in the environment for several years, and disposing of plastic in landfills is unsafe and has led to various health problems. A lesser known impact that could result from ingestion and inadequate waste management is the impact of chemicals on humans and ecosystems, either contained in plastic or transported by plastic waste. Human health effects include decreased immune function, cardiac, kidney, and liver damage, lung function abnormalities, and trigger development of obesity. Plastics contain BPA, and most plastics release it when heated. BPA makes plastics hard and more endurable. BPA is an agent impeding the function of glands of internal secretion. Technically, it is artificial estrogen, the female hormone, which can get from a plastic bottle or a vessel into food or water. As artificial estrogen, it affects the development of fetuses of both sexes, hampers the development of hormonal system, and contributes to the development of breast and prostate tumors. It impedes the production of testosterone and sperm quality for males, increases the insulin resistance, and promotes obesity. In the last 60 years, plastic has become a useful and versatile material with a wide range of applications. Its uses are likely to increase with ongoing developments in the plastic industry. Plastic is a highly useful material and its applications are expected to increase as more products and plastics are developed to meet demands. Plastic is used in place of other materials such as glass, wood, and metals in construction and for decorating. Early uses date back to 16,000 BC, when natural rubber was shaped by human hands and polymerized into objects of utility in prehistoric Mesoamerica. The exploration of plastic was jump started in 1839 with the discovery of vulcanized rubber. The first truly synthetic polymer, bakelite, was produced in Belgium in 1907. Mass production of plastic began in the 1940s and has continued to expand ever since. Economic growth and development also increased our demand and dependency on plastic, which leads to its accumulation in landfills, imposing risk on human health, animals, and causing environmental pollution problems such as groundwater contamination and sanitary related issues. Policies for managing plastic debris are outdated. Manufacturers of plastic, along with food and textile industries that rely heavily on it, should have to prove that their products and packaging are safe. Such demands are routinely made on the food and pharmaceutical industries by directives from numerous agencies, including the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the European Medicines Agency. Laws that are designed to regulate and manage an environmental problem typically address environmental harm that isn't against the law, and it is not seen as harmful as other types of social harms. Many times, this environmental harm is acceptable because it has monetary benefits. Also, usually the harm is not considered bad from a legal stance. The law sets limits that cannot be crossed and requires legal documentation in order to regulate the harm. In this aspect of the law, legal practices can cross the line of legality and become problematic. Regulation is based on a continuum from direct command control on the part of the state to voluntary compliance on the part of companies and individuals. In the specific area of environmental regulation, the general trend has been away from direct governmental regulation and towards softer regulatory approaches. The more states have to regulate, the more money they have to spend. It is easier and less expensive to rely on self regulation. The government doesn't strictly regulate the chemicals used in plastic the way they should, so they won't have to acknowledge the issue of dangerous chemicals used in the process. We need to start seeing this as if it were a criminal issue and hold the plastic companies responsible for what they put in our plastic that we use every day and require honesty about the negative effects it can have on us instead of them hiding the truth and being more concerned about economic gain. Opinions on the safety of plastic vary widely, and despite more than 5 decades of research, scientific consensus on product safety is still elusive. Since there is no agreement on the safety of plastic, it is difficult for regulations to be put in place. The plastic industry claims that plastic is safe, but they have an ulterior motive for wanting the public to believe this. Another problem is that people are not urging the need for regulations because most people do not know the problems associated with plastic, and even worse, they do not really want to know. It is easier for people to stay in the dark about the issues than to acknowledge the fact that we all have to change our lifestyles. There is a very hidden effort by the plastic industry to not let this plastic problem be known to the public. In the United States, the plastic industry is the third largest manufacturing industry. It is a $1 billion industry, and in 2012, plastic manufacturers shipped out about $373 billion in goods. The industry employs nearly 900,000 workers in the United States alone, making plastic a key building block within manufacturing and for the United States job force overall. And that's just part of the story. When you include plastic suppliers, the number goes up even higher, and the entire plastic industry accounting for 1.4 million jobs nationally. Plastic as it relates to human health raises the issue of environmental harm versus what is legally criminal. Even though an act against the environment may not be deemed criminal, it doesn't take away from the fact that it can be just as harmful. Environmental crime is undervalued, and it is related to the issue of legality and how some harmful acts to the environment are legal and socially accepted. We tend to think that what is legal is okay, so when the state, who defines what is legal or not, allows for certain environmental crimes or harms to go without punishment because it's technically not criminal, it undermines the importance of issues. Environmental crime is also not taken as serious because it is difficult to point out a specific victim. Environmental crime frequently embodies a certain ambiguity. This is because it is not only located in models of risk or evaluated in terms of actual harm, but it's also judged in the context of cost-benefit analysis. The label of environmental crime tends to be applied to specific activities that are otherwise lawful or licensed, since these are viewed as not being intrinsically bad or criminal. Plastic, one of the most preferred materials in today's industrial world, is posing serious threats to environment and consumers' health in many direct and indirect ways. Exposure to harmful chemicals during manufacturing, bleaching in the stored food items using plastic packages, or chewing of plastic teethers and toys by children are linked with severe adverse health outcomes such as cancer, birth defects, impaired immunity, developmental and reproductive effects. Promotion of plastic substitutes and safe disposal of plastic waste requires urgent and definitive action to take care of this health hazard. The quantity of plastic produced worldwide in the first decade of this century is equivalent to the total world production in the centuries prior. Because many of today's plastics are not biodegradable, continued use at this accelerated rate is unsustainable and will cause a significant burden for future generations. Just because something is not criminal does not mean it can't produce just as much, if not more, harm. People have to wake up and become more aware of harmful impacts of plastic on human health. We have to be ready to make changes to our lifestyles and require the plastic industry to be transparent about the negative effects of plastic. The plastic industry will continue to tell us plastic is safe because they want to make money. We have to take responsibility for our own health.